Hello lovelies, today we're going to be talking about a missing person story. Unfortunately, this beautiful girl is still missing. She's now a woman. Nobody knows where she is. There's been nobody found and no reason as to why she's disappeared. If you've seen videos like this before, you'll know that sometimes it can be really beneficial to share information on the internet, as it allows people to remember cases and for them to come in with information that may not have been shared during the original case. So I'm hoping you guys can have a little listen and see if you can share the story and get any more information about the whereabouts of Ruth Wilson. Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about an adolescent who has been missing for 25 years now. Her name is Ruth Wilson and she went missing in November 1995 in the Birchworth, Surrey area of UK. Since her disappearance, nobody has been found and the case has largely gone forgotten. I had to take my research from a number of outside sources because the police are no longer cooperating. Official update of what the police have said, their statement that's been released says that they will continue to keep an open mind about what happened to Ruth following her disappearance in November 1995 and that the investigation remains open as Ruth has never been found. The statement says that the case remains open because Ruth has never been found. However, they are unwilling to share any kind of information with regard to the case because they feel like any researchers or any of the media or anyone who is currently looking at the case will be critical of their actions. I gathered a lot of information that I know in this case from a man called Martin Bright, who actually highlighted this case and wrote a documentary for Real Stories in April 2018. Okay, so let's take a look at Ruth. Who was Ruth? Ruth was a wonderful, bright, intelligent schoolgirl. She was not the coolest person in the class. She was not the most popular person in the class, but she had a heart of gold. She fitted in with the kind of kids that were just nice people. She would attend church. Her father was the local parish councillor, and she seemed to live a really lovely, picturesque, happy family life in the country. One morning in November, Ruth decided that instead of going to school, she would make her way to the library to study. I couldn't find any evidence to suggest that she actually attended the library. She did order a taxi that took her into Box Hill, which is a beauty spot in the Surrey Hills. This was the last time that she was seen alive. It's been extremely difficult to gather information on this case. It appears that a lot of the people around the point of her disappearance kind of shut down, particularly her parents. They accepted that she went missing and that was kind of it. They didn't really have much to do with the initial investigation, and we don't know how many people really got questioned or offered any input into the case. What we do know is that there was the presumption that Ruth was a runaway. However, when we look at the case at first glance, we kind of assume that Ruth had this wonderful life and that she was happy, and that there seemed to be no reason as to why she would run away. And the unfortunate thing is that people didn't seem to question this at the time, even though they all agreed and thought that she had a great, happy life, particularly her family. Her family very much gave off the idea that she had like the perfect home life and that nothing could have been wrong. However, not everything was as it seemed. The family reported that Ruth's mother had died when Ruth was younger and that she died from falling down the stairs. This is something that Ruth couldn't seem to get a grasp on, and she did a lot of research into her mother's death herself. A few days before she disappeared, she had been spending a lot of time with her ex-boyfriend William. When questioned, William's response suggested that he didn't seem very emotionally attached to the case or to what happened to Ruth at all. He said that he had kind of felt numb to the whole thing, that she had disappeared, and that he wasn't really emotionally concerned with it, which kind of raises a few questions as to what happened there. Because if you had spent the last few days with your ex-girlfriend before she suddenly went missing, would you not be slightly worried or concerned about where she would be? Would you not be like maybe some sort of suspect in disappearance? It doesn't appear that William was questioned very much, but he was very open in communicating with this recent reporter. During the more recent investigation, Ian Wilson, which was her father, also declined to participate. He pretty much refused to have anything to do with the new opening of the case, and he was not interested in finding out any more details of what possibly could have happened to Ruth, which is crazy. I mean, the thing is, in the original investigation, the police had nothing. They couldn't find any paper trail of where she went. They couldn't find any cash that had been drawn out of her bank account. They had no records of her going to the dentist within that 25 years that she was missing. There was nothing. It's a little bit odd. Like, I know that perhaps they want to lay it to rest and maybe it's too emotional for them. I just think it's very odd that when you haven't heard from or seen your daughter in 25 years and there's like, you have no idea what could have possibly happened. She's still missing. I think I would like to know. I think it's something that one of the retired detectives, the person that instigated this whole new look into the case, he couldn't sleep. He has not been able to sleep for years and years and years. He's a wonderful man, and he's done a wonderful job in trying to find out more about this case and try and settle this case and find out what happened to Ruth. This is someone who's not related to Ruth at all. So for the family to just shut down and refuse to want to have anything to do with the case moving on, like, curiosity is a crazy thing. Even if you're kind of heartbroken and you're distraught, you'd still want to know, right? You'd still want to know what happened, or at least you'd want to pass on what you know so that someone else could find out. Even if you didn't necessarily want to hear the results or the answers, surely you would at least be willing to give the information you know, because even if they held the answers back from you, you know, you may want to know 10 years down the line. And it just doesn't make sense for me that somebody would just completely refuse to want to have a look at this case and want to try and help to settle what happened to Ruth. So it began to feel, as they were doing the research into the case again, it began to feel as though Ruth just did not have anyone around her who really cared about her. She just didn't have anyone that was worried to this day. It just feels like everyone in the Surrey community had just given up. It was discovered that in 2010, one of Ruth's school friends called Roxy had launched an appeal. Unfortunately, the appeal wasn't very successful, and everyone remained very unwilling to provide information, including the police, including the family, and basically it was as though Surrey had just forgotten about her. So Mark Bright decided to place a new campaign into the Surrey media and tried to lure in more of a response, tried to awaken people in the Surrey area to remember anything they could about Ruth Wilson and this poor 16-year-old girl who went missing on that November in 1995. A few people came forward and one of those was Catherine. Now, Catherine was apparently a very, very close friend of Ruth in school. They bonded over some similar problems that they both had. Catherine was really, really willing to talk to Martin, and she offered a completely different and shocking insight into the reality of what Ruth was going through at the time. What we know after talking to Catherine is that Ruth's home life was not the picture perfect place that it was. Catherine suggested that Ruth was deeply unhappy and that she really wanted to run away from home. Now, straight up, we're probably all thinking, okay, so maybe this makes Ruth a runaway. What we have to remember is that if she was a runaway, she had no money. She took her bank card. She didn't have a job. She left on her own. The driver who dropped her off did not see her with anyone. She didn't have a passport. She couldn't drive. So she would have needed some sort of support if she was really going to run away and survive long term. Catherine also shared some new information about some underlying secrets within the Wilson family, which meant that they were really covering up the true cause of Ruth's mother's death. Now, as we said before, Ruth was a little bit curious about her mum's death. She was always questioning it. She wasn't completely satisfied that her mum had died by falling down the stairs. It turns out that just a little while before she went missing, Ruth had actually come across the medical records for her mum's death, which explained that her mum had died due to hanging, and it was suicide. Catherine strongly believes that even though Ruth had not spoke about it, Ruth was in quite a distressed place mentally and was at risk of probably wanting to kill herself. This brings on the idea that perhaps Ruth ran away into the hills to commit suicide. Okay, so basically it was around this time, as the friends are being questioned, that Ian Wilson decided to speak up and that he was going to submit a statement to Martin Bright, who was researching the case, and this is in response to the supposed unhappy household. So I'm going to read this word for word so that I get it accurately from you, and this is directly from the statement that he sent. Her family are extremely hurt by this statement and do not recognise this view of Ruth's childhood. Ruth always knew about her biological mother's death, but not the exact cause. Sadly, we now know that before her disappearance, Ruth had discovered the tragic circumstances of her mother's death. But equally sadly, she chose not to discuss or question this with any of the family members. When questioned about Ruth's mother's death, William, her ex-boyfriend who had been speaking to her a lot before she disappeared, claimed that he knew nothing about the reality of the cause of death. He said that he only knew that her mother had fallen down the stairs. So that surprises me as well, that they were that close and that she only really shared what she had learned with her one friend, Catherine. And to me, I just feel so sad for her. Like, if she couldn't share this information with, I mean, this must have been heartbreaking for her, or even soul destroying, and if she couldn't share that information with someone that she had been hanging around with the last few days before she disappeared, or she couldn't share it with her family, then she must have felt very, very alone. Catherine also shared some more information that I think the family was not aware of, and that was that Catherine was soon moving away from the area, and Ruth had actually asked if she could move in with Catherine when Catherine moved. Also, Catherine's own mother shared that Ruth used to stay at the house and she just did not want to go home. She never wanted to go home when she stayed over the house. And to me, regardless of what the family say, that just suggests to me that her home life was definitely not a happy one. So there is the conclusion that perhaps Ruth did want to run away, and perhaps there's even a chance that she may have been planning to go up into the mountains and commit suicide. Sadly, from reading other things that friends have said, for instance, one of her friends, Kay, does suggest that she thinks there was an intention there. She thinks there's some kind of intention for her to run away. This is where it gets strange, because nobody was found. And people did go out into those mountains and look. And there was so many people from the community that looked all over the place before the case died down. And surely if something had happened like that, like she had passed away, then there would be a body, or there would be some evidence of some kind. The other thing is, even if she did run away, you would think she would need some help and that she would be more prepared. She would have some money saved or something like that. There is a chance that she may have done it on a whim, but surely she would have to at least have another person in the loop to kind of help her out or know where to go. And you would think if she was confiding in some of her friends like Catherine, that perhaps she would have shared some information about where she might go. There is also another thing, and that is that perhaps she did meet up with someone. So the taxi driver said that in the original case, the taxi driver said that when he dropped her off, she appeared to just stand around at the side road, either perhaps because she was waiting for someone else to come and pick her up, or because she didn't want the taxi driver to know where she was heading. Now, this could lead to so many things, and this is where I'm so shocked that the police have basically just stopped acknowledging this case. It really shocks me why nobody is curious enough to continue this search and participate. Like I said, particularly her family. The multiple things that could possibly have happened to Ruth are insane. The fact that she has been missing for 25 years now, there has been no record of a body being found. There has been no record of her bank card, or her getting a job, or her changing her name, anything like that. Nobody apparently knows where she went. She may have chosen and had an intention to leave or do something, but if she was starting a new life, there would be a record of it. Even if she had changed her name, there would be something. Someone would have spotted her somewhere. There's been photos, there's been lots of stuff in the media. Someone would have seen her by now. There's so many things that could have happened. What if she had met someone? What if that person turned out to be a really bad person? What if she got abducted? What if she got murdered elsewhere? What if she got a car and ended up going somewhere and she didn't know anywhere, and then she got lost and something terrible had happened to her? What if this whole time she had been abducted and kidnapped and held somewhere, and she's still a prisoner today? So many things could have befallen this 16-year-old girl, whether or not she decided to leave. Until we find a body, or until new information comes in, this girl is still going to be missing. And I urge anyone who thinks that they possibly in any way may remember anything, or know of anyone who perhaps could have come from a background like this, or where this could have happened to them. Perhaps you don't know the history. Ruth was 16 25 years ago. I would make her in her early 40s, I think. I'm guessing about 41, but if I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. Please correct me. Any tiny bit of information that you can share, or anything that you can do to support this case, whether it's maybe making up a video on YouTube or share a picture of her on Instagram. Ask around. She's a local girl. If you are living in England, she could be anywhere in England right now. She could be in Scotland. She could be on the other side of the world. She could have been dead in a ditch for the past 25 years. And someone needs to care about this girl. Whether she's alive or not, I think that it's really, really, really important that we find out what's happened to this girl and we finish her story. Regardless of how the parents seemingly are acting to date, I'm sure they miss their daughter thoroughly, and I don't know what other family would not want to know what happened, and I just hope that for those people that really do care for her friends, for the community of Surrey, for anyone who's ever been involved in this story, I just really hope that we can try and get some closure and find out what happened to this poor girl and give her a bit more respect, because she deserves it. Thank you for listening to this missing person story. It's my first one, and I may not have provided as much information as I've gathered. If you have anything to add or any questions, please drop them in the comments and I will do my best to look into it or provide information. If there are any updates in the case, I will of course update you. I just want to end by saying, if you have any problems, if you're worried about anything and you maybe need some support, rather than run away, talk to someone, talk to your friends, talk to your family. If you can't talk to them, message me. You know, I'm here. Drop me a comment, but please don't feel alone. That's all from me today. Take care, everyone. Mwah.